Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of All Sorts of Esports. This show will be going over weekly highlights of the League of Legends esports community in Korea, Europe, and North America, with some variety into the smaller countries and areas as well. I'm hoping to hit all the things that you might miss when just browsing through Reddit, going on Twitter, and reading various articles. Because personally, I know that it can be very hard to keep up with things in the esports community. I'll also be doing other games if you want to keep up with those as well. So today, the first thing that I have to talk about is the NBA LCS, which I mean the North American LCS. Recently, there's been 3 teams that have bought stakes into the North American LCS. These teams are the Golden State Warriors, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Houston Rockets. This brings 3 new teams, which brings in way more money and brings in fresh rosters. Usually, the North American LCS works through a promotion tournament, and this brings 1, maybe 2 teams into the game. But this brings 3 brand new rosters, and with rosters going up to 5 to 10 people with the academy teams now, this could create havoc for everyone in the league system with salary caps, if there should be salary caps, money, things like that. Secondly, with these rosters opening up and expanding, there's going to be way more free agents moving to different teams than you may have expected. Right now, the list of free agents that will be able to work within Riot Games' new Tuesday transfer system, where their contract isn't actually up, but they can still transfer and talk to different teams. These names including Shrimp, Xmithy, Polebelter, Cody Sun, Stunt, Mike Young, Pyrian, Apollo, Niski, and even Challenger Scene Phoenix. These names are huge, and some of these names might end up on academy teams on some of the bigger names like Cloud9 and Team Solo Mid. This would be crazy for the consistency across the league for high-level players. I have 2 picks for who we should be looking for in the offseason to make a big move to a big-name team. The first one, which is very obvious, is Polebelter. This player brings such consistency to a team that almost all teams could take advantage of. Although he has been blamed for a somewhat too consistent play style, and he needs to be a little more aggressive, which we did see this past season on Immortal. And secondly, which is kind of a more underrated player, I would say, is Shrimp from Dignitas. He made huge impacts in the end of the season this past year, and I thought they were going to be semifinalists, maybe even in the finals against TSM this past year. But they barely got out, and we should be looking for him to make big moves into the next season. And the 2 players that I don't think are going to be looking as hot in the offseason are Cody Sun and Altec. Even though I'm a huge fan of Cody Sun, and I love Immortals, and I loved Cody Sun this whole past 2 seasons, his playoff run and his Worlds run was not acceptable in a game that was very surrounded about him, especially in the Worlds meta this past season. He had a very rough Worlds, and especially in the NALCS finals. The second player not looking too great is Altec. He is a very gifted mechanical player, but his macro game needs a big improvement if he wants to see any big deals this coming season. He never has performed to the highest level he can because of his macro decisions in lane, and therefore forcing him into hard decisions later in the game. Every week, I'm going to come to this show with a big question, something that I think is something to look forward to into next week's games or into next week's just free agency like it is right now. And even though there isn't much going on right now in the League of Legends scene, there's still a lot to talk about, in my opinion. And this week's big question is, will Immortals stick together? Now, this is the team that made it all the way to the North American LCS Finals in Boston this past year. However, supposedly, they did not make it into the North American LCS franchising, which means that whole team is open for deals, whether each player will make it to separate teams to take the best deal that they can get, or if they really want to stay competitive and stick together, is up in the air right now. Everyone would mostly assume that they would separate and take the best money, take the best deals, because everyone kind of has their own opinion of what the best deal is. However, I would love to see this team stick together. I used to not be an Immortals fan, but after this past season, you can't not be. This team is great, and led by their coach Song, they were unbelievable. And watching them in the North American Finals was kind of killer. Watching them play under their coach Song was amazing to see, and I would love to see them move to even a whole new team, all 6 of them. But that would be huge for any deal, and I don't even know if anyone could afford. Because if you think about last season, Reginald, the owner of TSM, commented on how Noah Winston, the Immortals coach, or the Immortals owner, was not able to afford most things because he spent so much on those contracts. And you have to find that diversity of finding cheap but good solutions to making the best team that you can with your salary. And I don't see anyone being able to take in all 6 of these players, especially since Immortals' old coach Song just tweeted that he's open to offers to any teams across the globe. This week's tweets that you missed comes from ESPN's Jacob Wolf. He tweeted that Cloud9 is looking at Licorice. Now this player is from E United from the Challenger Series this past year, and he did not make it through the promotion tournament. However, this is pretty mind-boggling because Cloud9 already has 2 big name top laners, in my opinion, with Ray and Impact. Now, even though they didn't perform that great this past season, I think that it creates huge question marks across the Cloud9 organization if they're willing to drop even one of these players for Licorice. And the second tweet is just kind of a shout out to Shox for winning the Esports Industry Awards Best Esports Personality in the Globe. I think this is a great award across all games: Counter-Strike Go, Melee, League of Legends, Dota. It's really great to see League of Legends win all those awards, even though Counter-Strike Go won so many awards this past week. The last thing that I wanted to talk about today is that the LCK just announced that they will be building the League of Legends Park in Korea. So this isn't exactly what it sounds like. It's just a stadium like North America or European LCS that they will be playing the games at live. It will host about 450 fans. That's approximately what European and North America is as well. And it will be a sole Riot Games stadium only for games like that. So I look forward to maybe All-Stars next year being hosted there and these smaller events that Riot hosts. This construction is starting in late January and should be done by the end of 2018. So that's pretty exciting for LCK to finally be getting their own stadium. And this isn't interrupting any broadcasting with the OGN. It's just making a sole stadium for LCK League of Legends. And on the side note, this is a small step for Riot Games to keep pushing League of Legends in Korea. Even though League is the biggest game in Korea right now and LCK is huge, there are so many other games that Koreans really like to play and really like to watch that they are battling against. Other than European and North America, lots of regions struggle with League of Legends being the top game. This week, I have 3 things to watch for when you're going through the Twitter feeds and on Reddit and on Facebook before my next show. So the first one is that November 21st is when players can start making the move and finalizing their deals with what teams they want to be on. I haven't heard a date on when they will be released, but that's really exciting to know that the players are at least moving. So we might see some off times on streams, things like that, while teams figure out their deals, and hopefully some leaks as well. The second point is that the teams in the North American LCS should be announced very soon because they have to start making schedules, making jerseys, making all the merchandise, and most of all, making the rosters. Because once the rosters start being released, obviously we need to know what teams the players will be on. So this is very exciting, and I do not know a date on this yet. I've searched everywhere and I can't find anything. So hopefully they will be releasing it very soon, because back in August, that's what they said, that in late November, they would be releasing what teams made it through all series into the franchising. And lastly, the best duo bot in Europe has been given space to explore. So I'm very excited to see where Sven and Mithy end up, because they could be staying with probably the biggest esports organization in Europe, which is G2 Esports. Otherwise, they could maybe split up and chase the money a little bit, but I assume they'll be sticking together just like they did from Origin. I think that wraps it up for this week. That's all I have, and I look forward to kind of showing you guys around esports across the next year or so. I'm really looking forward to doing this every week, to keeping you guys up to date and knowing just what's going on in the esports world. This episode was very focused on North American LCS, and I will be expanding to the other regions as the preseason flows on. The North American LCS is in a very exciting place right now, and that's why I focused on so much of it this episode. But I'll be moving across other games, I'll be moving across other regions, doing casters of the week, making sure to describe how a caster got there, doing players of the week, and things like that, just to keep you guys interested. And I look forward to talking esports with you, because I've noticed a very small selection of esports videos or podcasts things like that, that just really give you a general idea instead of just talking about solo queue or playing the game in general. I want to bring in more of just the esports culture. So if you have any suggestions, make sure to comment. Otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.
I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul.